Good morning, Misfits. You are tuning into episode 28 of the Misfit Project. I am your host, Drew Crandall, and for the second episode in a row, we are joined by the Dream Team cast, Ted, Sherb, Hunter.
Hello.
Hi. Who's cast? Oh, wait, never mind.
He once called himself Mast in a video instead of
I know
Matt.
that guy.
Mast here.
Mast here.
Mast, Sherburne here to talk about Marote coaching. So,
Yes.
if you're confused, the Misfit Project is back. This is the second episode of the Back to Basics series, and we will be releasing all of the podcasts moving forward under the Misfit Podcast name, account,
Umbrella.
whatever we want to call it, umbrella.
Yeah.
So last week, just a quick recap, we talked about what we call tribes. We talked about getting outside. We talked about personal relationships and the effect that those things have on your health. And it's been a big change for me, kind of as a segue into sleep, being able to go out on my porch and drink a cup of coffee in the morning.
Oh, it's so nice.
Like, you feel so much better. You go out there, you get actual sunshine. Like, I think that we have this unique perspective where we live on this topic, because just like we're starting to open the doors in our gym and just walking out there to like throw a box in the trash, you're like, man, this is so nice.
Nice.
It feels good. So we talked about that last week on that episode. That's episode 27. And the big segue and why we go tribes then into sleep sort of as a specific order here is because the sunlight portion is so big when it comes to our circadian rhythm. But also, let's say we skip ahead to the end of this episode and we're sleep masters and we're rested all the time. If we're not all that happy while we're awake, it's not going to do us all that good. Yeah. So if we're not looking at those personal relationships and trying to figure all that stuff out, you can't really sleep that stuff away, unfortunately. So one of the things that I want to do is these guys all have in front of them, as well as me, my studies, facts, etc. And I want you guys to each pull one out, one that's interesting to you, and talk a little bit about it. Talk a little bit about how we could kind of make this connection.
All right. I'll start.
All right.
One thing I've definitely noticed myself, one of the things we do obviously is travel quite a bit. That getting up early when your sleep has changed, the fact I see right off the bat is that one night of sleep deprivation leaves your body in a similar state of a diabetic, meaning you're irritated, your blood sugar spikes, you feel really, really weird when you get up super early. So for me, like, I know exactly what they're talking about here. Like, we've all had that trip where we've gotten up at, 3:30, 4 in the morning, and that means our resources are lower. We didn't get the same amount of sleep we normally get. And then you crave things that you don't normally crave that time of day. Cause I'm typically someone that fasts 16 hours a day.
Well, we all complain about how hungry we get early in the morning when we're traveling. And like, we don't get hungry in the morning ever when we're home.
I don't even think about food until usually like 1 o'clock most days. Yeah. But the days that we get up at like 4, I'm ready to eat at like 7 a.m. And that is so unusual for me. So that one is something I definitely like notice big time when we travel, and I 100% agree with.
Yeah. I don't know whose cursor's on that one, but the second one crushes the immune system, doubles cancer risk, Alzheimer's with 1 week of sleep deprivation. And then that kind of tapers into being pre-diabetic. For me, like just personally, I've had relatives with some form of Alzheimer's or dementia. And just, I pulled another study before this. It was mostly relating to blood glucose and kind of the effects of a lack of sleep or sleep deprivation on glucose and free fatty acids in the blood. And just the fact that all of that kind of connects to, numbers don't mean a lot of things to people, but the fact that like, hey, my cancer risk increases, my risk of Alzheimer's increases, that's something that's important, or that should be noted. So, and again, just from personal experience, having seen 2 grandparents go through the same thing, like that's like a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. And we've gone from, this, I'm not counting this as mine. I'm going to get 2 because I get to cheat. We've gone from 8 hours. We slept 8 hours a night as a country in 1960, and now we sleep 6 hours and 40 minutes a night. So if we
is
have
that actual sleep, or is that time in bed?
I'd
not
have to
that
go
it
back and look
matters
at
like
the
that
study.
much,
Yeah,
but
I'd have to go back and look at the study, but it was the entire study was one that was sort of a composite of a bunch of others that pulled in why depression is a modern disease and essentially where is it coming from. And you look at this stuff and you say, okay, so if we know that sleep crushes the immune system, doubles cancer risks,
Rick?
Alzheimer's, everyone knows cancer.
Damn it, Rick.
Cancer Rick is an asshole.
Cancer Rick. Big old sleepless douchebag.
Diabetes, arteries blocked, like that. Those are those modern diseases. Those are those things that are really kicking our ass. And if we know sleep leads to that and we're sleeping an hour and 20 minutes less, that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I find that 8 hours of sleep in 1960 versus 6 hours of sleep now is pretty interesting because I'm so involved with like the technical side of things, like technology side of things. And I think that really has a lot to do with that huge dip in the amount of sleep that people are getting.
Oh yeah.
Because
I agree.
Reading has shifted to iPad screens. Nighttime activities have shifted to Netflix watching, usually in bed when there's a TV in the bedroom. And all of these things kind of lend themselves to like jacking your brain up to a notch that it shouldn't be at before you're in that kind of like sleep zone.
Right.
So I know that I'm just piggybacking off of your fact, but one thing that I've found is with using blue blocker glasses, if the technology is something that you need to have at certain times of the day, like myself, when I have to post to Instagram, reply to Instagram messages, reply to, support tickets or whatever.
Right.
It can make a huge difference on how I feel in the run up to sleep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the quality of sleep throughout the night.
So you're not just talking blue blockers, which we'll talk about later, like it's whatever, 8 or 9 p.m. and you throw them on to watch TV. You're putting them on while you're working.
Yes.
During the day.
Yep. And I've got some that they look clear, so they don't look like I'm wearing sunglasses all day.
Right.
But yeah, no, it makes a huge, huge difference. I think technology has a big role in the lack of sleep that the modern human gets.
There's a graph somewhere online. I'll try to find it again and post it, but it's a graph that shows what a television looks like to your eyes compared to the sun. And it's like, or at least the light that's surrounding you normally. And it's messed up. The graph's like this big, if you're watching on YouTube, my hands you can see them. And then if you're listening on the podcast, they're about a foot apart. And then the other part of the graph is like a centimeter. It's like, this is what you're used to seeing. This is what your brain is seeing. And this is why it's confused.
Right.
So staring at the sun before you go to bed isn't good.
It's probably better than staring at an iPad.
Perfect.
So I'm going to lump 3 of these together really quickly because they all sort of have the same theme. There was a study covering the span of 5 years using CT scans found an increase of over 20% of visceral fat gain in patients that slept less than 6 hours per night versus those who slept more than 6 hours. Goes right into visceral fat becomes its own organ in your body and begins to secrete estrogen, leading to increased fat storage and decreased testosterone. And then last but not least, solid dieting with bad sleep leads to more tissue loss from lean body mass. So we're talking about that fat, that visceral fat that we don't want on our body. It's going to be a lot harder to pull into our bloodstream for energy. The kind of thing where triglycerides are going to live, that heart health becomes an issue. And then we have, okay, so I'm on a decent diet now and I'm starting to lean out a little bit more, but my sleep is crap. And that's going to be why you can't put on the muscle mass. And to me, that's just makes sense because when we get into deep sleep, we produce testosterone and growth hormone. And that's where it is. So for me, looking at that and thinking about all of the people out there that are looking for tips and tricks, and I want to look a certain way. And I personally don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to look a certain way because it can be a gateway to being healthy and finding out that there might be a different pursuit for you.
Better overall wellness.
Exactly, down the road. But that can be a gateway to say, okay, I look better now, but I also feel better and I can, work on myself and, other, sort of avenues. So that positive feedback loop and understanding that you can make the time if you want. I mean, I know a lot of people out there that are super busy that still have the, if I'm talking to them about like a TV show or did you see this meme? They're like, yeah, I did. I love that show. And it's like, okay, so we can probably find a little bit of extra time here so that we get on the right side of 6 hours and hopefully eventually up to the old school American average.
Well, I know, like, from experience with talking with athletes and talking with people that come to the gym, that most people want the quick fix for, you're talking about looking a certain way. They want to get what they can from the gym. And they're, after a while, some of them get very frustrated because they aren't seeing the results they want. And for a lot of them, they don't focus their attention on this very simple, like almost zero barrier to entry, like level skill of learning how to sleep well, which we'll go into in a little bit. But like, if you want the best supplement there is out there that costs that, like $0, you have to prioritize sleeping. Like, I know a bunch of athletes right off the tip of my head right here, tip my tongue, tip my head, whatever I say, that are, hey, I really want to get stronger, or hey, I really want to lean out, or hey, I really want to get this or that has to do with like their overall body composition and look, but they aren't willing to address this simple need. Yeah, I suck at sleeping. It's like, okay, well, what are you doing to get better at it? Nothing. Well, let's talk about that first before we worry about like, should I be taking ZMA or should I take this supplement or that supplement? Let's start with something that's very easy. And this is a great topic on that. And I hope they really pay attention to this part of it, because there's no sense in buying the other stuff if you don't take care of this first.
Yeah.
One other thing that always interests me is people who say like, I feel, or like, I operate fine on 6 hours of sleep, or like, yeah, I've gotten used to sleeping 5 hours a night. It's like, like you've gotten used to it because like your body adapts to that kind of thing, but you're still, what you don't realize is how many processes you're missing out on, how much like growth, recovery, like mental faculty refreshing. I don't know.
Yeah, we're like, spending a lot of good words in this podcast.
Man, I can't remember.
So often too, those people that are like, oh, I'm fine with 6 hours of sleep, are the same people that are like, oh, I need coffee right now. I need another coffee. I need more coffee.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, do you operate fine off, or are you just lying to yourself to justify the fact that you got 6 hours of sleep? The combination of
things you do in order to operate off 6 hours of sleep allow you to operate off of 6 hours of sleep.
My dad is a great example of this because he's worked the same job for going on 40 years now, and he goes to bed somewhere between 9:30 and 10, and he's up every single day to leave for work at 3 a.m. So he sleeps like 5 hours a night, and he's done it as long as I've been alive. So I talk to him all the time because one of the things that discourages him is like, oh, I thought I'd get, a little bit leaner from CrossFit, or I'd get a little bit leaner from exercising, or like, I feel like my diet's in place and I'm working out. Why am I not seeing the results I want? And I'm like, you sleep 4.5 to 5.5 hours a night. Like, that's not good enough. Oh, that's all I need. It's all I need.
There is a little bit of a kind of a nugget of science in there. They did a study on, I think it was college kids, and they found that the time that you go to bed and wake up was the number one determining factor on how well they did in testing. So the people who did not alter their circadian rhythm were the ones who had the highest increase in test scores based on sleep. They found pretty easily that the kids that don't sleep much versus the kids who sleep more do. It's, black and white.
Yep.
The people who sleep more, their testing scores are better, but the people, it was more important for their test scores that they go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time every day. So a lot of times when you get those people that say, they go to bed at 11 and wake up at 5, they probably do that every single day, and their circadian rhythm is set, and they are not completely optimized maybe for like a physical pursuit. They're not producing enough testosterone. They're not going through enough sleep cycles. But that study kind of put out there that there are those people that can't operate on that, but it's because their circadian rhythm is like nailed in. And the circadian rhythm thing is what gets messed up in all of us during the winter. And that's where seasonal depression comes from, is our endorphins are all screwed up, our endocrine system. You go into like the feel-good hormones, all that stuff gets super messed up because of our circadian rhythm. Because our bodies are like, do we go to bed now? I'm tired. It's 5, but then you put me in front of a TV and it's 11. So I'm confused. Like, what the heck is going on here? So that's where a lot of that stuff comes from. The positive side to this stuff, the like what I like to do typically is the scare tactics, and then but we can say the exact same thing in the opposite, and you can just read the headline: fat loss increases by 55%. And people that spend 8.5 hours in bed a night versus 5.5 hours. That's 55%.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Huge increase.
It's a huge amount.
It's one of those things where, we talked last week about walking outside. Like, we're inside right now. There's doors over there and over there and over there. We walk outside. That seems fairly free and easy. We talked about auditing personal relationships. Now we're talking about how much time can you lay down. Like this stuff is this powerful where you're throwing around words like cancer and heart disease and depression and, the worst of the worst. But the solution is built into stuff that we just stopped doing. We took away an hour and 20 minutes of 8 hours of our sleep and we got sick. Like it's a huge issue.
Yeah.
So moving into kind of the prescription now, like what are we actually telling people to do? Sleep quality is a number one, because we could be talking about someone that is doing what we're asking them based on what we just talked about for the last 10 minutes or so, but maybe they've got like sleep apnea, or maybe they're sleeping in a really hot room, or maybe there's a bunch of mold in there, or who knows what it is. And we need to prioritize quality first. Like being in a bedroom for 9 or 10 hours a night and tossing and turning and waking up and, potentially snoring or things like that, that can be a real issue. So prep is super important. What do you guys do? I mean, you have the list in front of you, but what do you guys do?
Say,
Prep. What do you do to flip that switch and say, because I mean, we all have stressful jobs in that it's not like you show up and we're doing like data entry and we go home. Like we show up and it's like, I got this thing, you got this thing, I got this thing. Hey, I got this thing. Hey, you want to film that? Hey, you want to go outside? You want to do this? Like we have that going and we need to be able to shut that shit off.
I was just going to say the number one thing that I do, and this is something that you've actually got irritated in the past for traveling, is turning the room down to a very cold temperature. Like something that really helps me sleep is having a room that I know overheat in, because I'm constantly someone that is sweating. I am a sweaty guy, and I'm constantly normally running at a hotter temperature than I feel like most people do, because I talk to my wife, it's like 90 degrees outside. She's like, I need a sweater. I'm like, I'm going to die if I'm out here for more than 2 minutes.
I wish those chili pad things were cheaper.
I know
they're really expensive.
It's crazy, but
apparently they're like life-changing.
Yeah, someday. But for me, that's like my number one thing is I got to make sure the room is cool enough that I can relax in, because if I'm sweating, or if, I'm sweating, I get itchy, then I move around and I'm irritated all night. And we've been on the road before in hotels that don't necessarily have the best, air circulation. Or
Albany.
I was just thinking regionals a couple of years back where the rooms were like 90 degrees and we made an effort to like get in our car, drive like 30 minutes down the road to pick up fans that were like shitty, like box fans, but they did enough to cool us off so we could actually get decent sleep. But that is my number one thing to get ready for sleep, is making sure that room is cool enough.
Yeah, my number one thing is the blue blocker glasses. Combination of those with, I try to make a conscious effort to stay off of social media in the evening.
Yeah,
I feel like it's so easy to get into this groove of I can't miss anything because I'm so involved with everything. FOMO. Yeah. So it's a form of FOMO, and Sherb is a FOMO expert. True. FOMO for those
exercise FOMO in a big way.
For the uninitiated, FOMO is the fear of missing out. And I feel like it's really easy with social media to get into this groove of you kind of know what is going on with everybody at all times. Not really, but you feel that you know what's going on with everybody. So consciously staying off of social media, I feel like, is big for me to kind of allow my brain to calm down to a point where I'm not worried about, oh, what did Hunter post? Or, oh, who's tagging Misfit Athletics?
He didn't post anything.
True. That's true. That paired with the blue light blockers are probably, that's the biggest part of my night is.
Yeah. Mine is, about blackout curtains. So my room, just the direction that it faces, and the curtains that are like in the room to begin with, just don't like block any light. It still gets sunlight in at 6, 7 in the morning right now. But since buying the blackout curtains, that's helped significantly. And I'm also in an area that at night, it's dark and I can flip the curtains down, but just the ambient light from like there's a Dunkin' Donuts
I was
like
gonna guess
across the street from
the
my
odors are
house.
gonna keep you up.
Holy shit!
Krispy
At like
Kreme.
4 a.m. It's just like, how can I help you? God, fuck. But yeah, that
Leave.
and like just the natural street light and ambient light still makes its way in, and when you flip the lights off immediately it seems dark, but once your eyes adjust you can tell like that light coming in. So when I put the blackout curtains, like I immediately was able to sleep like 1-2 hours longer if I didn't like have an alarm set. So
Sounds like you need to get yourself a Manta sleep mask, bro.
yeah.
For real.
But
What's
no,
the code?
I'd have to look.
Misfit 10 or something like that?
Something
Misfit
like
Project?
that. Yeah.
We're going to get you guys a discount code in the next episode for the Manta Sleep Mask.
They're
It's
great.
Fantastic.
And they just released these new eye cups that are apparently bigger and softer.
What? All right.
Anyway.
I'm into that. For me, I have an issue with internal dialogue. I kind of live in the old noggin.
Yep.
That's my life.
Yep.
So I have to create a mindset shift. I have to. And like I don't watch sports anywhere near as much as I did when I was younger, but the NHL playoffs are on right
Yeah.
now. And if I go straight from like Pasternak, you piece of shit, like did you just fall over again, to bed 3 minutes later, like I'm not thinking about hockey, but I'm just thinking about stuff. My
Yeah.
day doesn't feel
your
like
brain is
it's-
just stimulated.
Exactly. I didn't get that like that exit ramp. Like that never happened. And that's a huge issue for me. So I have to sort of have this moment where I'm like, okay, I've had dinner and like I've like done the last little bit of like social media work or responding to like questions. Like somewhere between 8 and 9 p.m., I'm gonna either like if my sleep's been bad, my supplements will lean a little bit more towards like melatonin and Virotech, just a vitamin C like supplement from On It. If my sleep's been better, then I just do Natural Calm, the magnesium that usually helps. But just the routine of like making the Natural Calm, putting my blue blockers on, and like when I go back to the couch, like I don't have my phone with me, my watch is on Do Not Disturb, and I just kind of sink in and like kind of exhale a little bit, like, okay, it's time. I need to be able to like get myself to that place.
Yeah, I actually started doing the Do Not Disturb feature on my phone. I remember reading something that even, I don't know what the exact statistic was, but just even basically a small amount of light, whether natural or from like an electronic, touching like anywhere on your skin
Yes.
can impact like how well you're sleeping. So it's like Do Not Disturb mode, phone is face down, combined with like the blackout in my room. Like
Yeah.
that helps significantly, but
And for anyone out there that hasn't tried the blue blockers yet, even the gaming, the like PC gaming glasses that look kind of clear, if you can get those on Amazon for like $12. I buy like 3 or 4 pairs at a time because it comes with a case. So I'll put one in my travel bag. One is in my office right now. One's at home. They're cheap enough that you can do that. And they're not as intense as the orange ones I used to wear. But when I watch TV, like I get tired when I have those on, straight up. Like if everything else around me is dark and I'm not working and it's not stimulating, I get tired. I feel like I took some sort of sleep supplement. Like it kind of knocks you down
Yeah.
a whole
I was
level.
going to tell you the same thing when we were doing that early morning wellness thing at that property service
Yeah.
company. When I left the gym, I would throw my glasses on my drive home. And as I was driving home, normally, you're driving, you got to be awake and aware. But I would feel like I was starting to winding down as I was getting home rather than being like, I just drove home and I have to go to sleep in the next like 30 minutes. Like it's really
Yeah.
hard to bring yourself back down. But that 30-minute drive became a lot more relaxing with those glasses on. And for me, it helped me wind down, considerably faster. Probably knocked an hour off my like winding down time
Yeah.
than it normally would.
And the all natural version of that is when you are spending a weekend at the lake or you spend like you're outside all day with friends and you get that blast of sunlight that's going to like kind of tire you out a little bit. And then those light spectrums start to change. And, the sky's blue and then it's a little bit darker and then it's a little bit darker. And like you're sitting around the fire and you are tired, like
Yeah,
really tired
exhausted.
because that's your body's like, oh, melatonin, let's go. Let's produce
Yeah.
some melatonin. And
Yeah. It's strange too, because those blue blockers, if you're somebody that works on a computer all day and you're not doing something that is super color dependent,
Yeah.
they almost have the opposite effect during the daytime as they do at night. You are able to maintain energy a lot better. Me personally, if I'm stuck looking at a computer screen editing video for 4 hours, I get like mentally just beat down, headaches.
It's overstimulation for your eyes and your brain.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're mellowing out that response,
Right.
And you're driving the car now.
Yeah, it lets me maintain energy, and I can sit in front of the computer for 3 hours and afterwards feel like I'm okay to go out into the gym and work out or something like that.
Right.
They're hugely beneficial.
They are. And again, just Amazon, type in
Blue blocker
blue
glasses.
blockers.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we can start to compile one of those Amazon like lists or whatever and put that out for you guys. But super easy to find. You know, low barrier to entry, $10, $12, whatever it is. The going into actual specifics now with the, you know, kind of that sleep sanctuary, we touched on it a little bit. I like that you put your phone on do not disturb, but there are also studies that show that we are light sleepers with our phone in the room because of the FOMO, because of the, hey, I'm not sleeping all that well. Like when you wake up in the middle of the night, a lot of times it's just natural that you've come out of a sleep cycle and you should be able to go right back into one. But people will instantly go to the days when they didn't sleep well and they'll grab their phone. They'll grab their phone and they'll stick it in their face. And then you're telling your body to produce cortisol, which is the enemy of melatonin. It's, you know, flipping that thing completely upside down. So if we get rid of that completely, like that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'm personally haven't gotten rid of that I should is my watch. I like to know what time it is. Like, because there's, you know, there are studies on if you wake up in the morning and you can't get that full 90-minute sleep cycle, then you should just get up. Like if you wake up and you've got whatever 40 minutes to go. And I said this to Austin and Caroline, who wake up at like, I don't know, 1 a.m. to coach class or whatever it is. And they were like, no, yeah, I need my extra 20 minutes. But from a normal person standpoint, you're waking up kind of at a normal time. You're supposed to get up unless you can get another sleep cycle. Because if you wake yourself up with an alarm during deep sleep, that's when you're like, oh, I slept all night. Why do I feel like shit?
Right.
I'm so tired. Why did it get jolted awake from that? So we're trying to get electronics out of the room completely. And if we can't get them out of the room, we're going to buy some black electrical tape and put, you know, you got a humidifier. You should, that little green light that like looks like nothing, and you turn your lights off and you could do puppet shows in your room. And you're like, what the hell is that?
Gaffer tape might be better for that.
Yeah.
It doesn't leave a residue behind. Electrical tape will ruin things, but gaff tape. One thing that might help you if you want to know the time, you can get these little like travel mechanical clocks.
Yeah.
That they're tiny little like cubes. They just sit on your side table or whatever. They have a little light on the top, and it's like a iridescent light, so it's like a really orange light. Might be helpful.
Did you guys see Mark Zuckerberg posted what he made for his wife? It's this little light box.
Yeah, I did.
It's a little, so they have a kid right now, and they're trying to figure out this thing where, like, I'm assuming this is happening because they don't have electronics in their room. And when she wakes up, the light box is lit like dimly at the bottom if it's time for her to wake up. So like if she wakes up in the middle of the night and she's worried that she's left the baby for too long, or that like someone else hasn't gotten up or whatever, she just looks over, and if it's pitch black, she knows she can go right back to sleep. And from like, cause he's like a programmer, he, you know, wrote the code for it and like made the whole thing. But from my standpoint, that makes sense for why you would have the ease of the darkness. You look over and you're like, oh, it's still dark. That's great.
Yeah.
Back to sleep.
Yep. But if it like has this really soft light coming out of the bottom of the box that tells her like,
that's interesting.
It's time to get up.
You think he'll let his kid use Facebook?
No.
Motherfucker.
Doesn't want him to have all that information about
some
him.
sort of special password, 79 character password. Like, so electronics, get them out of the room, get it as dark as possible. If you are a shift worker, this is the mission of your life. There's no way to sugarcoat that community. They ask a lot of questions, and I'm glad that they do. You have to try to reverse engineer night and day. You have to try to get yourself as much light as possible and be super upbeat and like raring and ready to go in the middle of the night. And then you need to be able to have a cold, pitch black room, and you need to still sleep 8 to 9 hours a night. Sort of a side tangent there, but the blackout is really important. And then one thing that kind of the final thing here, we already talked about temperature. We're looking for 63 to 67 degrees is the sweet spot that they found. The scientific reason for that is we drop our body temperature to get into deep sleep to produce that testosterone and growth hormone. And if it's too warm, those are those nights you remember when you're a little kid and there was no air conditioning and you're like just dying in the middle of the night. You wake up every 20 minutes and you're tossing and turning. And it's because your body can only go through REM and non-REM. It
Sheets
can't
are
get
wet.
in. Exactly.
Always.
You can't. Hey, listen.
Sherb has to wash his sheets every day.
Yeah. No,
He should, but he doesn't.
Actually, that's more accurate.
Yeah. So 63 to 67 degrees, the range is there probably because of some people like blankets. Some people are a little, in, a little out, that kind of deal. Last but not least, air circulation. We don't want stagnant air in there. We want some sort of movement. You can get one of those tower fans that'll pull in a decent amount of air and push out a decent amount of air. The kind of thing that you see at like Brookstone, but thank God for Amazon now. You can buy those. Someone found out how to make just a regular fan for not $400. If you're worried about like pollution in your room, they make small little units that do air circulation for you. They pull them through a HEPA filter, and that stuff's not super expensive either.
I think plants are, you got it on here, but
Yeah.
like having a small plant in there is the natural air filter,
Absolutely. Yep.
Or a giant plant.
or a giant one. That's
Yeah.
fine.
You can have a giant plant, a small plant. I think the giant one might filter more air. I
Maybe.
don't know a lot about plants.
Shame.
Luckily,
Shame.
this podcast isn't like a Q&A. Like there's like a little crowd back there. Oh, what kind of plant should I get? Google.com.
Sunflower,
has some excellent suggestions for
Don't get a
plants.
fern; they die really quick.
we killed a plant a few days after buying it for
It
the
was like
office.
2 days it lasted.
We specifically asked, or Ted did, what kind of plant can I buy that requires little to no maintenance and will stay alive?
I asked her what plant didn't need any light.
Apparently she went with the little
She
maintenance
lied.
and it got none.
Yeah.
It's dead now.
It's
Rip.
dead as fuck.
Rest in peace. So, sleep quality, really important to get, kind of the sleep prep, get your mindset right, get that light situation figured out. Maybe some supplements that are in there, and then the sleep sanctuary is really important. If you go into a room and that room is also your office and that room is also the place where you watch TV and it's all these different things, there is no cue for your mind to say, this is where I sleep. So you want to get all that other stuff done outside of the room, and at the most, maybe a pair of headphones or a book or something like that.
I was gonna say I had a TV growing up in my bedroom, and I'm pretty sure my entire like teenage years and like until I moved out, I didn't get good night's sleep ever because I always had the TV on just in the background. Like, oh, I need the noise or I need the whatever to fall asleep to, and then you'd wake up at like 2 a.m. the TV would still be on, like
Just watching Becker in the middle of the night.
yeah, that's my cheers. So yeah, I made sure that like when Noelle and I moved about that house, it's like we're not going to put a TV in there. And thankfully, she was on board because it was the same way. Like if it's there, it's just too tempting to have on. So like, don't have that in your room. Just like
I
there's
think
a room for a TV.
One
like,
thing to also add about the sanctuary thing is if like you treat your bedroom as a place for basically just sleep, it shouldn't be. I don't
The
think it should
experts
be
say
a
sleep and
place.
sex, but you
Yeah.
can,
I don't know
Well,
how
you
far
have
we were
the
going to get
sex
there,
room.
but
And then the sleep room.
wow.
I need another room.
but just
You use
not
Jordan's old bedroom.
Oh god
He
damn.
already does.
Delete that from this podcast. Gross. Moving
Yeah.
on.
All right. Well, fuck. Leave it alone.
Sorry to ruin your point.
Yeah. Only use your bedroom for sleep and sex. Don't watch TV or just hang out in there. Your body recognizes that it's when it goes into that room. If it's just used for those one or two things, recognizes that you're more likely to have that better night's sleep than if it's the place where you hang out, watch TV, watch Netflix on your computer, that kind of thing. So
I go back in my mind to my wife's studio apartment in New York. It's like living room, kitchen, bedroom. Like it was just one room. Like
half the size of this.
no
this room.
closet, like nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, there's no way to do that.
Yeah,
and
It's
in
not
the city.
possible. What's that?
And in the city.
And in the city.
So
yeah, lots of
noise and
noises.
light.
Yep. So we're prioritizing quality. Now we're moving on to quantity. This is a topic that a lot of people want to know about. And, most of the people listening to this are pursuing a peak physical expression. So I don't really have any issues with saying that if that's what you're after, you should be spending 6 90-minute sleep cycles worth of time in bed every night. That's 9 hours, right?
Good
Quick maths.
Quick maths. You should be spending 6 90-minute sleep cycles. What we're trying to do is get into that third 30-minute segment where we go into deep sleep and get all of those restorative benefits that you feel on that random weekend day where you sleep more than you normally do and you wake up and you're like, yes, let's go. Like, I feel great. That's how you're supposed to feel every single day. So where do we start? What's the beginning? If you're listening to this and you're like, that's hilarious. The absolute minimum is 4 90-minute sleep cycles. When we get into that sub 6 hour, and we're talking sleep here. So that's
Not time in
probably,
bed.
no, that's probably 6.5 hours, roughly, I would say.
At least.
That's the absolute minimum. That's when we're starting to get into the fringes of cancer risk, visceral fat being added, all of this different stuff. But as you heard before, we go from 5.5 to 8.5 and we burn 55% more fat. So as we move up through here, I think that 4 is that number that if you've got someone in your life that's, really struggling with their health, let's start with that 4 by 90, which is going to be your 6 hours. It's going to take 6.5 hours in bed. Let's get them to start there. Get them to feel the benefits, find that gateway into helping them instead of being like, this is how long you're going to sleep. And then you leave and they laugh and say, I'll do what I want. I think 5 is that kind of normal non-psycho CrossFitter like range, because you've got 7.5 hours. And when they do the sleep studies and they normalize people's sleep, they want to be in bed for about 8 hours. They put people in a room for, I think it was 11 hours a night. And almost every person had to autocorrect. This room is pitch black and there's nothing in it. You go into the room for 11 hours and you can do whatever you want, but obviously it was for sleep. It was a sleep study. So the correction was like 10 hours for a little while, 9.5, 9, and almost everyone made it back to that baseline. So that 5 sleep cycles, that 7.5 hours, again, that's going to take you roughly 8 hours is, for me, after reading everything, that's where that number that just keeps popping up everywhere. Like, I think that's probably roughly how long we slept during the kind of middle parts of the year, way back in the day, sleeping in caves and whatnot. You're probably looking at, 7 to 8 during the summer, and you're probably looking at 8 to 9 during the winter, somewhere in that range.
I was gonna say my normal is probably right around the 5 sleep cycle. Usually going to bed somewhere around 10:30, probably asleep half hour after that, and getting up somewhere around 6 and 6:30. So that sounds about right to me. And for me, that is that like the operational amount, because I definitely feel a performance drop off, and I feel different when it goes closer to 4. And then every once in a while, when you're super exhausted and you get 6, it does feel great. Like it's one of the days after the traveling recently, like slept like 10.5 hours, and I got up, I was like, I think I've felt this good in a long, long time. And it was literally just something as simple as getting 1 extra sleep cycle where I maybe missed it a couple days leading up to that.
I will do just about anything if I'm in a situation where I'm like, we're getting sub 7 now. Like, I will get my 6 hours.
Yeah.
I know that I told you we were getting married today, but I'm out. I gotta get my 6. Like, that's something that I try to do really hard. And sometimes we're on the road and we have to be on for like coaching or presenting or whatever it is. And that 6 is all you're going to get. But like, I make sure that that's like,
I've been yelled at quite a few times for leaving electronics on too long when that is the case.
yes, you have.
One sort of intuitive thing to add is this is continuous sleep too. We've seen there are a lot of trackers out there that talk about sleep, and if like a Whoop, for example, like you take a 2-hour nap, all of a sudden your sleep requirement goes down from 8 hours to 6 hours at night if you take like that 2-hour nap during the day. And that's not exactly how it works.
No,
like we're talking about
the circadian rhythm altering that is such a huge problem.
Yeah.
And again, for anyone that lives in the kind of place that we do, all you need to do is think back to those times a year when shit's not so fun. And that's that altered circadian rhythm. It's not something that we want to, chase after. There's nothing wrong with a nap.
No, definitely not. Just don't think like, oh, I got a 2-hour nap in the middle of the day. I only need 6 hours of sleep at night to meet my 8-hour requirement or whatever.
I'm someone that can't nap. If I nap, I feel like it's impossible for me to fall back asleep and get a normal amount of sleep. So like my wife, for example, she loves taking naps. And for me, that's never the case, because I do that. All of a sudden my window for going to bed is pushed back an hour or two, or I'm getting up an hour or two earlier, or waking up in the middle of the night. So like, I don't know, personal experience, I just can't do naps. And I don't know if that's common or uncommon, but like for me, I really notice a huge difference in how I feel and how I perform if I try to put a nap somewhere in my day. And I know there's certain science behind it where you have to wait, like there's a certain window that's ideal for napping depending on your circadian rhythm. But for me, napping just ruins my quality of sleep.
Yeah, this is another topic that comes up a lot with the shift workers. We'll do a training camp and they'll want to know, we'll do the whole Misfit Project, presentation, and they'll want to know, what am I supposed to do? Like my personal life, I got kids, like I got to be able to, like, I just got home from work, but I have to be able to like put them on the bus or whatever. I like naps if they're done as a preventative thing. So I'm like, I know for a fact I'm only going to get 6 hours of sleep tonight, something like that. Yep. I will tell them to put that nap before that day, because then we're kind of building something up. Yeah, if they can make it through a true sleep cycle, if they can get that 90 minutes and that sort of restorative benefit without pushing themselves past that and then maybe waking back up in deep sleep, that's that nap thing. There's all the memes of you wake up and you're in a different galaxy. Like, where am I? Thought I was going to sleep for 1 minute and it's been 6 days. Like that's where all that stuff comes from. So for me, naps are like insurance. Yeah. Trying to figure that part out. So the quantity portion is simple in theory, and the facts are all there. It's really short, but it's really important. So again, to make sure that we're not confusing people by alternating back and forth between sleep cycles and hours, which we did a few times. We're saying 4 to 6 sleep cycles, which is 6 to 9 hours. So you've got 6, 7.5, and 9. Yep.
About 90 minutes in a sleep cycle.
Yeah. And that's what we're looking for. And again, for the athletes, testosterone and growth hormone. I mean, I don't really need to say a whole lot else. You don't even need to know what it means. You just know that it's good.
Yeah. It's good for you.
It's good for you. Moving on to timing. We talked already about circadian rhythm, going to bed and waking up at the same time every single day is a recipe for so many health benefits. Yep. So figuring out for me personally, figuring out the quality and quantity is where we need to start. But if you're, again, peak mental expression, peak physical expression of what we're capable of doing, that's that next step. That's that next step where if you're asking yourself, what's it going to take for me to, take my game to that next level? How are these athletes better than me? How is this person? I know that this person isn't, smarter than me at work, but they kind of have their shit together a little bit more later in the day. Yeah. Whatever it is, whatever you're after in life, there are ways to hack the system. And I know that for your social life, for all these other different things, these other factors, it's priorities versus, your goals, going to bed and waking up at the same time is how you get there.
Yeah, to me, the quality and quantity are kind of the must-haves. It's just okay, we take the electronics out. It's the one-off things. Buy the sleep mask, buy the blackout, buy the blue blockers. Okay, we're good. Timing is kind of combining the art, the art and science, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And making it all work. Because without it, I've got a blacked out room and I'm only sleeping 4 hours. We're not doing the right things. Timing is where it comes, right, where the benefit is.
And this conversation bounces back and forth because we have two scenarios. We simultaneously live opposite lives. We work with people remotely where, yes, we need to persuade them, but at the end of the day, we can be fairly blunt. You need to do this if you want to get to where you're going. It might come to that in a conversation with an athlete. But we also have an affiliate here. We also have family members. We also have friends.
Yeah.
We have our tribe. So we have to take baby steps. We have to talk about hey, let's get the room colder. Let's do this. And if we do make it to timing and we do make it there and they say, you want me to not go out on Saturday night and then also wake up Sunday morning at 7? Like, what? I have to do that all week. I don't want to do that. Whereas if they did it every day, it'd feel normal, but that's kind of a different thing. So that's kind of where a lot of this stuff comes from, the order of operations. Like, we're not saying any one thing is more important than the other, but there's kind of like a sequencing to it, if that makes sense. Last but not least, most sleep scientists say that your night of sleep begins every morning. And that's because you have to set this situation where we've got the left side of our graph. We want cortisol to be spiked in the morning, and we want that to go down throughout the rest of the day. And then from left to right, that melatonin goes up. So cortisol goes down, our stress hormones. Cortisol gets a bad rap, but if it does what it's supposed to, it keeps us alert and going, not overstressed, which is our next episode that we will talk about.
Big one.
We need to bump that cortisol in the morning, and we need to set our circadian rhythm in the morning. And the way that we're going to do that is through sunlight exposure and just some way to tell ourselves that we're awake. We are going to go way into the morning routine on the next episode when we're talking about stress, but just sort of a teaser. And to close out the sleep thing, we want to get outside right when we wake up, get that sunlight if it's possible where we're at. If not, we can buy one of the blue lights. Again, they have them on Amazon, and again, they're cheaper now than they used to be. They're not the cheapest thing in the world. They sell some of them that don't have much. They don't pack much of a punch in terms of how much light they're giving off. So it's kind of a scam. So you will want to go in and look at what the I don't know what the actual reading is, whether it's candle watts or, mega amps, lumens or whatever it is. But you can get the blue light and you can get that exposure early in the morning. And if we're back in the winter, we're not talking about it as much on this episode as we would have if it was the middle of the winter, but that blue light during the day can be really helpful as well. And then the cortisol thing, push-ups, burpees, lunges, air squats, run up the stairs. If you have a bike or a rower, get on it for a couple of minutes. You just want that feeling of like when you go into a workout without warming up, and you like 2 seconds in, you're like, what the hell? You're trying to create that.
Yeah.
And we know that it doesn't take much time or effort to create that. So just find something, and it could be something you're trying to get better at. It could be like, man, I hate push-ups, or I hate air squats, or I hate burpees, or I hate this machine or that machine. You get bang for your buck and do a 5-minute session and be done with it, or you can like, if I've got a day where I gotta get out the door, I'll just do a max set of push-ups and then get in the shower. And it works. You feel way more awake than normally I'm sitting down in the shower and my eyes are shut.
I was just going to say, going back to the sunlight exposure first thing when you wake up, I used to really, the dogs would be at the door, probably a half hour before I'm ready to get up and they're making noise. And, every once in a while I was like, all right, I'll get the dogs, take care of them. But they force me to get them outside. Obviously I have to use the bathroom. And I've found that just going outside with them as they're, doing their business has made getting up.
Do your business with them?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah. I was going to put that on public record, but yes, I do. But yeah, I noticed that when I do that, I go outside with them that
naked.
I'm not in Westbrook, but my neighbors would see. But getting outside with them helps me a bunch. It doesn't take as much for me to feel like I'm waking up. Those mornings where you get up out of a deep sleep and you're trying to open your eyes don't want to open, and you try to wake yourself up. I got to go drive somewhere because I'm late for whatever, something that feeling isn't there when you go outside and you let the natural light just kind of wake you up. I'm going out there, my eyes kind of closed, but within 90 seconds, I'm fully functioning and feeling normal, as opposed to trying to stay in a dark room and slink around and get up and wake up.
Yeah, it's my ideal situation. If it's warm enough, and that doesn't even have to be too warm. A lot of it's about whether the deck is wet or not. There's snow on it. It's not really all that fun to do burpees. But if I can go out there, just in the skivvies and knock out some push-ups or some burpees, the sunlight and that happening right there, I feel different for the rest of the day, and it takes me a couple minutes.
Yeah, my neighbors have seen my underwear quite a few times. Sorry, ladies. Old ladies live across the street.
Sorry,
Old ladies live across the street. If you listen to this, I'm sorry. It's bad sites.
All right, boys, what do we got for takeaways? Anything?
Sleep.
Nope.
Just do it.
Nothing important here.
Yeah, for me, it's just like, this is so simple. Like you have to make it something that you want to do. And that's sometimes the hardest thing in any change is creating the desire to make a difference or wanting to do something different. But like, you don't have to pay any extra money to do this. You don't have to do anything special, really. You just have to pay attention to your like ritual at night and, try to do one or two of these things that we described for making that sleep sanctuary, and, just practice anything that this goes back to like people with like, oh, I can't sleep on my side, or I sleep on my stomach and I wake up with a sore neck. It's like, it takes practice. You have to learn to like lay down a certain way. You have to learn to do these habits. And, for the first few weeks, it's not going to be very fun. You might not get the sleep that you wanted before, but over time, when you do these things, you're eventually going to adapt to it. And then you're going to find that you get a much more restful night of sleep. And for me, that's made a huge difference, like putting these things into action.
To me, to kind of tie this into the tribes episode. So the Sebastian Junger, he's the author of the book Tribe. He's also,
amazing book, by the way.
Yeah, great book. He was also embedded with an army unit in the Korengal Valley in, I want to say it was 2010, maybe. I might be wrong on that date, but at the time, it was considered the most dangerous place in the world. And he basically a lot of his stuff from Tribe comes from his interactions with those soldiers who are in incredibly austere environments, who are, in constant threat of danger. And after a while, they reported sleeping the best that they ever had in their life in that environment, because one, they were like around kind of their tribe, those people that they trust, they like rely on, like literally life and death situation. They rely on those people, and they're getting that like quality sleep partially because of the tribe. I'm not going to say it was probably the best quality of sleep based on what was probably happening at that time, but tying the tribe thing together with the sleep, the two are not mutually exclusive.
It's a very primal situation.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, the sleep might not have been as bad as you think, just based on, there were neighboring tribes that were going to come in and huck spears at you and all of that. So that human connection piece is so powerful and fulfilling for people that the hormones needed to go from up to back down, they just happen naturally.
Yeah. I doubt anybody had blue blockers, out there. No, not many people were decompressing after that day. There's a constant threat of getting killed. But again, that tribal communal aspect made them feel safe. And that's part of
the documentary Restrepo, is that same area?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you want a visual of how terrifying this situation is, and inversely how powerful these concepts are, you can check out that documentary.
It's incredible.
Think about people sleeping in that situation.
That's something to watch. I'm seeing that.
Yeah. It's amazing. We've touched on a lot. Sleep is such a complex topic. One thing that I would recommend for anybody out there that wants more, Joe Rogan's podcast with Dr. Matthew Walker is mind-blowingly good. It's probably 2.5, 3 hours, something like that, all about sleep. Some of the topics that come up in that are just incredible.
His book is it's called Why We Sleep, and he was the first person prior to releasing that book that I emailed to try to get on the Misfit Project like 2.5 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, because he was a professor, and his auto response was that he was on sabbatical for like 3 years. And I was like,
he was writing his book
because he was about to be famous and too big for this. We're going to get big enough to get you on the podcast.
See you soon.
No, it's an incredible podcast. And I've not checked out the book because I'm not very good at reading.
Sorry to hear that.
In general, the information conveyed.
He takes in words pretty well. He can't read.
I know how to read. I just
much.
don't have the focusing capabilities.
You're better with
to
audiobooks than
yes. Audiobooks I can handle, but it's incredible. I would recommend it to anybody that is even slightly interested in the topic of sleep and the benefits that it has for you. Probably the craziest part of that podcast for me was him talking about how our brain sorts out
which memories to throw away that are unimportant and which ones to keep.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Our brain decides that. So when you're having those arguments with people about something that happened or didn't happen, your brain will literally categorize something based on the amount of REM versus non-REM sleep that you're getting and get rid of it.
When it comes down to it, you're probably wrong about what you remembered.
Yeah. The human memory is so faulty. This feels like
I need to talk with my filing clerk. Mine's clearly.
You need to get in touch with the filing department.
Filing clerk is not
Contact HR.
Brenda, we need to talk.
Oh boy.
Clear my schedule.
No calls.
So we made it from tackling
Hold on my calls.
personal relationships, getting outside, the tribal piece. That's episode 27. If you haven't checked that out, please do. Today we talked about sleep and that kind of restful mindset that we need to have at night, and then we need to get all jazzed up in the morning and rinse and repeat. We do this before we talk about stress, before we talk about mindfulness, to put stress in a positive light. We do that because we are really screwing with our hormonal system if we're not sleeping. Like, if we're not producing what we need to produce. We talked about the blood sugar thing. You know, that's going to be related to the fight or flight that we're going to get into in the next episode. We need to figure out those personal relationships to get a really good night's sleep, to have that circadian rhythm figured out with the sun before we try to handle our stress. And if we're not doing that, we're not going to be able to handle it. And a lot of us know that already.
Yeah,
We've kind of already been there. Once again, all of the podcasts will now be under the Misfit Podcast name. If you are looking for the other 26 episodes, you can search for the Misfit Project anywhere that you get podcasts, or you can go to misfitproject.com. But everything is going to live under the Misfit Athletics umbrella now to make sure that we're getting this information out to the people that we want to get it out to. If you share it with other people, that would be fantastic. That's kind of what we're after here. We're trying to build, a bigger community outside of just CrossFit, but we want to start with our people. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
That was episode 28 of the Misfit Project. You can find us on YouTube, misfitathletics.com, anywhere that you get podcasts. Like, subscribe, comment. If you want to give us topics for future episodes, that would be great. Or if you just want to interact with us, please leave some comments that lets us know that you guys are watching and listening. We will see you next time.
Later.
Yep.